Hey, this is Andrew Brown. In this video, I want to see if there's a way that we can implement React prompting. Now, there are solutions out there that are managed, but I want to see if we can write this from scratch, as I don't believe that it would be very, very difficult to figure out. But maybe what we can do, looks like there's a video down here, but maybe what we can do is see if we can use ChatGPT to write it ourselves. So I want to implement a LLM solution that uses reAct prompting. How can I implement this? Okay, and so we'll take a look here and see what we can do here. We'll give it just a moment here. I'll get my head out of the way. All right, so I've asked ChatGPT, let's implement it, but I don't want to implement it utilizing LangChain or Llama Index. Those frameworks would allow us to easily do that, but I really don't want to do that, as I do feel that they add an extra layer that doesn't help us out that much. I'm going to go over to GitHub, and I'm going to go over to our ExamPro GenAI Essentials. Just so you know that prompt engineering does appear a little bit earlier in this course, and so if this stuff is out of your realm right now, you can always come back to it when you learn a bit more coding and things like that. I'm going to open this up in GitHub Codespaces here today, if that's okay. Sometimes using Gitpod, sometimes I'm using GitHub Codespaces, sometimes I'm using local development. We like to shake it up here, but we'll open that up. And as that's opening up, let's give this a read. So we'll create a prompt that instructs the model on how to respond to the reAct format. Typically, you do something like this. So we'll have a system prompt. So you're an AI assistant that can perform the following steps. Reason through problem by describing your thoughts in a thoughts section. When you need to use a tool, output an action section with the tool name and its inputs. After the tool call, you'll see an observation and a section with the tool output. Continue the cycle of thought and action observation as needed. End with a concise final answer that answers the user query. The chain of thought in thought sections is only visible to you and not part of your final answer. The user should only see the final answer. So that sounds interesting so far. So the user prompt, what is the capital France plus the capital Germany, right? So perform a single manual reAct step with an LLM. And so that kind of sounds like something that we would like to do, is to do this manually. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we have lots of code laying around. This is actually old code, I can tell right away, because it has capital C, the two capitals on there. So here it says, we pass in a list of system messages plus user and ongoing conversation, parsing the action observation. So let's go back over to here. And I'm going to switch this over to color themes. We're going to turn this into dark. And I'm going to make I'm going to make a new folder here. Yes, allow me to paste. Prompt engineering, prompting. And we're going to go ahead and see if we can implement this reAct ourselves. And it's not reAct the JavaScript framework, it's reAct the prompting framework. So I'm going to go here and make a basic.py. So this is, or sorry, not py, but iron python ynb. And we'll also create ourselves a new .env file. We'll also create ourselves a new .env.example file. We'll also create ourselves a new git ignore file. I've been using OpenAI quite a bit, and yeah, we'll keep using it. It's fine. I do have like a Claude subscription with, or Anthropic subscription with credits on it, but the only way you'd be able to do that is if you'd had to pay for it. If you don't have the credits or a comparable one, that's totally okay. Just do your best to follow along with whatever solution you have. We do have a whole section where we show you how to programmatically work with stuff in the Workbenches Playground section. So if you have yet to do so, go check out that stuff. But I'm going to make my way over to the OpenAI implementation here, which is over here. And I'm going to grab some of this code to get started with. So here, this one is actually a really good example. I'm just going to copy this and save myself some trouble. And then I'm just going to paste it into here and let it replace it. I'm going to delete this one. And I'll rename this IPYNB. And I'm going to need a key from OpenAI. So we'll go over to here. We'll give it a moment here. I'm going to go over to API login, and I'm going to make my way over to my basic project. If you don't have a project, go ahead and create one. I'm going to go over to API keys. I have one here from earlier. I'm going to delete this key. We're going to create a new key. This one's going to be called reAct and I'm going to place this into the basic project. This will generate out a new key for me. I'm going to go back over to here and go into the .env. I'm going to go into the OpenAI one because this is what we need is these three things. I'll paste this into the example here. Also, while I don't forget, I'm going to do .env here. And then we'll go back, we'll copy this, we'll go up to here. And I'm going to bring this down. And this is the key that goes into the first part. So we'll cut that out, we'll place it in here. And so now I need a project ID and an org ID. So I'm going to go back over to here and we'll go into API login. And on the left-hand side, we'll go over to basic, into manage projects. Here I can grab the actual thing I want, which is the basic. So I'll grab that. And I believe that was the project ID. And then we'll go back over to here, hit done. And I'm going to make my way over to, I'm getting a little bit confused where I am. Yeah, organization general. And so here we can grab an organization ID. We'll go back over to here. We'll paste this in. And so now we have those three set. Okay, so those are all set. Let's go back over to, well, what's going on here? I think I named the file wrong. It's not supposed to be a folder. Oh, darn. I'm going to delete this 1 second. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this again. And then I'm going to paste it in here. There we go. And so this should now all be configured to work. This is not really the example that we want, but let's go ahead and just make sure that it works. I'm going to go ahead and let it install Python Jupyter, whatever it needs. Install Python down here as well. Okay, we'll give it a moment. Okay, so we'll go to Python environments here. We'll choose 3.12. And so we'll run this code here. Give it a moment. And then we'll import our environment variables, and we'll just make sure that this still works. Okay, so it does. So now the next thing is to incorporate from ChatGPT some of the outputs we have here. So the first thing is that we need to have this system prompt documents. We'll go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to make a new line here. I'll put this above. I call this one system prompt. I think if it was, I think it's like triples. If we do triples, we can do this. Right, there we go. And so now, instead of having this, we can have this as our system prompt, right? I'll bring this onto a new line. Okay, so we have that. That's good. And we'll go back over to ChatGPT here. And this is our current user prompt. So we'll go down here. This will be user prompt. And so we have that. What is the capital plus that? Okay. So I'll run this. I'll run this. I'm not sure what we expect to see as a result here, but I'm going to go and bring this onto a new line. Sometimes when we're iterating on this, I don't want to call it like 100 times. We'll go ahead and run this. No problem. We'll go run this. And I want the content in here, so I'll just do this. 1 second. So here I have the thought. The capital of France is Paris, and the capital of Germany is Berlin. The question seems to not ask for a mathematical sum, but rather to combine the two capital names in some way. Action: no tools needed for this task. I will simply formulate the answer. Observation: the capitals of France and Germany are Paris and Berlin. Final answer: Paris and Berlin. So that's the first example of it. But let's change it to say, what is the weather in Thunder Bay, Ontario? That's my hometown. Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada today. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and update that. I'm going to run this again, and let's see what we get this time. So we run that. So it says, I need to find the current weather information for Thunder Bay, Ontario. I will look for a reliable weather source to get the most recent data. Action: get weather, Thunder Bay, whatever. So here it's saying the above action simulates calling a weather in the scenario. I'm using it to gather current data on the weather. Observation: assume I received the weather data for the Thunder Bay, which shows the conditions such as temperature, precipitation, general description. The weather in Thunder Bay is etc. So the thing is that when you're doing this, it's producing a thought and then we have an action. And so here it needs to call this function. It's telling us right here what the action it wants to have. And so the idea is that we can parse that out and then call that function. And so that is what is happening here. So down below it says, perform a single manual react task is fine. So we have action observation. And so the idea is that, so check if the models produce an action. It did. If so, parse out which tool it wants to use and the input. Run the tool in Python to get a result. Append an observation message to the conversation. Call the LLM, so append an observation message to the conversation. Call the LLM again with the new conversation context. Repeat until we get the final answer. Okay, so here they have this big iterative process, but it's a lot simpler than we think here. So here we have that function, but what we'll do here, like we need some way of parsing out the action. So I'm going to go here and just say, this is what looks like in the text. How can I parse it out using Python? All right, and you could even tell the LLM like how it should display actions. We're not doing that right now, but we're just going to try to figure out how to extract the text that we have. So we'll give that a moment here to just give us some code back. Oh, weird, it didn't actually do the thing we asked it to do. So I'm gonna ask it to run it again. It didn't actually do it. So we'll ask it again. So, hey, you didn't give me any code. So we'll just ask it to do that again. So here we have a regular expression where we're grabbing the text. I'm going to see if this will work. So we'll bring this over. I'll make a new line here. So we're importing regular expressions. We're doing a pattern matching here for our thing. And then here we are trying to do our match. Okay, so we are bringing our text. Our text here is this. So I'm going to go and change this a little bit. I'm just going to cut this out. I'm going to say text here. We'll still print it out. So now we have our text. And so then we'll go down here and print this next. And we got tool, get weather, Thunder Bay, whatever, like Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. So now what we're doing is we would define a function called get weather, right? And then we'd have an input. And we're hard coding this. So we're not doing for real, but let's just say input equals this. Or you know what? Let's go ask ChatGPT. How can I get the current weather using an API for Python? Okay, let's see if we can get an example here. Maybe we can implement it for real. Okay, create a free account on Open Weather Maps. Sure, let's go ahead and try that then. So go here and... Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Sign in. Well, let's go first take a look at pricing. Yeah, there's a free one, 60 calls per minute, so we'll go ahead and do that. I'm gonna just make a new account here. And I'm gonna generate a new password here. I'm gonna save that. I am older than 16. I agree. I don't want a bunch of alerts, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And we will do that. I am doing this for educational purposes. Exam Pro Training Inc. Save. Okay, and so now I need an API key. We'll go over to here. I have a key right there, so I'm going to go ahead and copy it. I'm going to go back over to here. Let's take a look. And so does this key have a very particular name? They're not specifying a particular name. That's okay. So I'm going to go back over to here into our code. I'm going to make go to here. I'm going to add a weather API key. What's that thing called? Open Weather? open weather map. And I'll just go back to our original example here. Open weather map. Like that. Okay, so we have our key in here, right? So we'll go back over to here. And let's go back to our code, which is here. There's a lot going on here, so hopefully this just works. So I'm going to copy that. And we'll go back over to here. I'm just going to paste this in here. And so we do have that API key somewhere in here. Here it is. And so in here, I'm going to go ahead and say os.environ.get. And this will be whatever the name of this is. Okay, so we have this. It's like it's not knowing what that is. Let's say import OS. I'm pretty sure we imported that already, but I'll import it twice. We have the main part here. I don't need a main part as this is a single function. So what I'm going to do, instead of having the API key here like this, I'm just going to take that out like that. And then I'm just going to grab the API key this way right here. Okay, and then we'll take this part out. I mean, this is pretty straightforward, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this part out. So we have the city name, the API key, use imperial for Fahrenheit. Oh no, we want metric, we're Canadian. Or at least I'm Canadian, I'm not sure what you are on the other end there. And so we have a big example here of data. That's fine, I'm gonna go ahead and just take this out like this. And so this is our simplified function, and we can pass in our city name here. So the idea is that if we got get weather, right, which we do, then we want to call this. So I'm going to define this function, and we have these two things here. So I'm going to go to our next line, and we'll say if tool name equals get weather, then we just call this function. Okay, and then from here, this will be the tool input. All right, and so I'm gonna go up here and just say weather info. And then we'll go down here and just say print weather info. If we do have it, I'll just indent this. That way we'll have less of an issue. We need a colon there. Okay, so this should, in theory, work. The only thing that we need to do, I'm just going to fix indentation here. It's acting a bit funny. Is we need to reload our .env file here because this will have those credentials. So I've reloaded it. I'm going to go all the way down here. I'm going to run this again so it loads in that environment variable. And let's see if our tool works. So it is trying to call it 401 unauthorized for the URL. Okay, so it's saying that our URL is unauthorized. Is it though? I mean, it's active, right? There's the API key. Okay. May have to confirm my email. Just give me 1 moment. All right, so I confirmed my email. So now I'm curious if this is going to work now. So we'll go back and run this again and try this one more time. Unauthorized for URL. So maybe it doesn't like the URL that's here. So let's go back over here. I mean, this is generated by ChatGPT, so it might not be utilizing the latest thing here. So we'll go over to the API. And so this says 3.0, so you can already see that there is a difference. How to make an API call. And so we see this, right? So I'm going to go back over to here. And so this is data weather. So I wonder if there's like a weather API endpoint like this one. To get the access to current weather minute forecast for 1 hour, Okay. Okay. How do I do it by town or city? Let's click on this again. API docs. Type in city. Contains 4 endpoints and provides access to various data. So we have current weather and forecast. I mean, that sounds like what we want. Yes. And so the API actually looks like this: latitude, longitude, excluding part. So maybe you can't just say city anymore, or maybe the thing was out of date. So here, then we'd have to get an additional step to get the longitude and latitude, which is kind of annoying. But you know, if this works, then we'll just utilize this. But you can see how it wasn't as straightforward as we thought it would be. So we're going to go ahead and we'll paste this in here as such. And I mean, it has like the query name this way. So really we want is lat, lon. I don't know if we need part. We probably don't need part. Okay, and we don't need the API key here. It's already in here. So what we really need is the lat and the longitude. So this is not going to be like a perfect example, but like, let's just assume that we knew what the latitude and longitude of Thunder Bay was. So latitude, longitude, Thunder Bay. Which one's the latitude and longitude? I'm gonna go over here. Can I? All right, we'll go over to here. Decimal 90, negative 90. Can you represent as decimals? It's probably fine. So latitude is 48.3809. So that's the latitude. And I know it's not really how we want to do it, but I'm just going to hard code it in. And this is our longitude. And so then we'll go back over to here. So even though it's passing the city name, we're not actually utilizing that anywhere, just because we found out the parameters do not match what we're doing here. Oh yeah, we need a colon here. All right, so we'll give this another try here. We'll run this. We'll try to get that tool again. And it says unauthorized for 401. So here it's attaching the API key. Is the API specified a little bit different here? This is app ID. Was that other one called API? Maybe that's why. No, that's right. So I don't know. We generated a key, so in theory it should work. But it's not. Anyway, it's not working, and so I'm not going to fiddle around with this forever. And so I'm just going to go ahead here and just say, like, just give me mock data. So go here, back over here. Give me mock data for the following structure. Okay, and we'll just mock it, and then we'll continue on from here. There we go. So we'll go ahead and grab it like this. And I'll go back, and we'll just go here like this. I would love it to work, but you know what? We're not gonna lose a lot of sleep over it here. We know like what we expect to receive back here, and so I'll just comment this out for now. There we go. And so I'll go down below here, and so that will now return this, and we'll go here, and we'll get back our weather input. And so now the idea is that if we go back up to our original one here, so note the above action simulates calling a weather. In this scenario, I'm using this thing. So we'll go back over to ChatGPT, and let's read what we're supposed to do next. Yeah, so I think we need to specify its observation. Let's go back up to here. Check if the model is producing act. If so, parse out which tool it did. Run the tool in Python to get the result. Yep. append an observation message to the conversation. Call the element again with the new context. Okay, great. So we have that there, right? And so we have that text prompt from earlier. And so I think it's, if we go here, print, and say text. Okay, so we have this, right? And so it's saying text equals plus observation plus equals, I'll just do this, text plus new line, observation, colon. And then here we have weather info. We'll do this here. And then I'm going to print out updated text. It's kind of okay. I'm not sure why it's acting a little bit funny, but we'll just go ahead here and make a new line here like this. It has one little extra space there, but I don't think it's going to hurt it. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead, back up to this part here, and then copy this here, and go all the way down, and we'll go to a new line. And so now we're going to go to the next line here. So this is our text, right, that we got back from that. So I think it's assistant we write back here, right? And then here we have our updated text. Well, hold on a second. This is still user prompt, right? And then we got back our assistant text, which is the text. And then we have our updated text here. So we have kind of a bit of a history here. I assume that's what it wants us to do, right? And so we'll run this. And then we'll say, got to go back all the way up to that other one here. I'll call this text 2. And then we'll run this. Final answer in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada today is -5 Celsius. So one thing I'm thinking is, like, while we're doing this, we could have probably, instead of having like four conversations here, we could have probably just appended it. But I believe it feeds it all in here, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm just saying, like, maybe we could have just taken that assistant prompt, and I don't know. But the point is that hopefully you understand how reAct works. The idea is that you're making a thought, you get an action, you have an observation, and then you have your final answer. And so there we were able to do that. There are frameworks that will automate this stuff, but it's better to know how the manual moving pieces work, so it's a bit easier. You can tell the system prompt exactly what you expect the tools to be. You can even tell it exactly what tools it has, because there it was just making something up, because it didn't know that it could just make up tools, but that's what it was doing. But we'll call this one complete, so we'll say reAct example, and there we go, okay? Ciao.